Well, hello everyone. How are you today? Welcome back to Easy Peasy Physics. Make physics easy and fun with me, teacher AINI. I hope all of you are in a pink while watching this video. Today, I am very excited to share with you on Archimedes' principle. Can you see? The words are floating on the sea water. What do you think Archimedes' principle is all about? Before I proceed, video contents include introduction, learning outcome, recall session, applications, evaluation, and conclusion. Last week, I went to swimming pool nearby with my 3-year-old niece. She loves the water so much, but she don't know how to swim. So most of the time, I have to hold her up in the pool. While I'm holding her in the water, I realize that she feels much lighter in water than when I lift her up outside the pool or at home. So how is this possible? That's right, it is Archimedes' principle, and this same principle explains why small stones or coins can sink into the water but massive steel ships can float. Before we proceed, we need to know what we should expect at the end of this video. At the end of this lesson, students should be able to communicate about applications on Archimedes' principle in daily life. Let's go to recall session. Let's recap a few things. A long time ago, a king Hieron requested Archimedes to construct the largest ship named Syracusia as a present to King of Egypt, Ptolemy. Archimedes wondered how to make the massive ship equipped with everything to float in the sea. While taking his bath, he discovers that when he soaked himself in the bathtub, he saw the water overflowing. And then he jumped out of the bath and said, "Eureka! Eureka!" means I found it. What did he find? He found out that the water displaced is equal to the volume of the body immersed in water. From that moment, we found out that there is an upward force known as buoyant force. When there is an upward force, there is also a downward force, and this downward force is influenced by the weight of the object. Archimedes concludes that when a body is immersed partially or fully in the fluid, it experiences an upward force. Upward force is equal to the weight of water displaced by it. Objects feel lighter in water than outside the water. Why is that? That is because the upward force. How to measure upward force? Upward force, or we can say buoyant force, is equal to the weight of the water displaced by an object. Weight of water displaced by an object is the difference between the object's actual weight and its weight in water, or in other terms we call it apparent weight. Buoyant force will support an object to float if the density of the object is less than the density of the fluid. Same goes to when the weight of the object is lesser than the weight of the displaced fluid. Now we move on to the most exciting part, which is daily life applications. The real life of application involving Archimedes' principle includes ship, submarine, hot air balloon, swimming, and fish. Let's look at the picture of this ship. Wow! How can this massive steel ship float in water? As you can see, the most important design of the ship is the hull. Alright. The hull of a ship consists of a hollowed out shells of steel that contain an adequate quantity of air. The air in the hull makes the density of the ship lower than the density of the water, and weight of the ship is lighter than the weight of the displaced water. So the buoyant force exerted on the ship by the water is higher than the downward force, thus allowing the ship to float in this condition. Another important design of the ship is the plimsoll line. Plimsoll line is marked on the hull of the ship. It indicates the safe level of immersion, and this marking determines the load carrying capacity and the space available for new cargo. They indicate the greatest depth a ship can immerse itself within. The ship will sink when it is immersed beyond the plimsoll line. Let's watch this video on the launching of the ship. You can see that was a quite amount of water rushing to the shore when the ships enter the water. This is because the ship displaces water equal to its weight and will immerse at a particular level in the water. Let's move to the submarine. The submarine is designed with a ballast tank. The video shows when the valve is open, it filling the ballast tank with water. The average density and weight of the whole submarine increase, and when weight of the submarine exceeds the buoyant force, the submarine starts to submerge into the water. Next, we would like to see how the submarine will rise onto the surface of the water. The video shows when the water is pumped out of the tanks and replaced with compressed air, the average density and weight of the submarine will decrease. Thus, weight of the submarine is lesser than the buoyant force. This will lead to the ascending of the submarine. We proceed with hot air balloon. This is how hot air balloon looks like. The main components that I would like to highlight are the envelope and the burner. A burner sits in the basket and is used to heat the air inside the envelope through an opening. The hot air inside the envelope is less than the air in the surrounding, which is the cooler air. This difference in density causes the hot air balloon to be lifted off the ground due to the buoyant force created by the surrounding air. We will see how the hot air balloon will descend. If we need the hot air balloon to descend, we need to decrease the buoyant force. If the balloon operator wishes to lower the hot air balloon, he can either stop firing the burner, which causes the hot air in the envelope to cool, or he opens a small vent at the top of the balloon envelope to release some of the hot air. How it maintains on certain altitude. To maintain a steady altitude, the balloon operator intermittently fires and turns off the burner once he reaches the approximate altitude he wants. This causes the balloon to ascend and descend respectively. This is the only way he can maintain an approximately constant altitude, since maintaining a strictly constant altitude by way of maintaining a net zero buoyant force is practically impossible. Next, we proceed with swimming. When I learned how to swim, the first skill that my instructor taught is floating. At first, I was quite nervous, but my instructor, Teacher Farah, said, "Relax your body and just look straight at the floor of the pool." When we face the floor of the pool, our body will automatically float. This is because the buoyant force acts through the center of buoyancy, which is the center of the immersed part of the object. As you can see from the figure, the blue-colored area is our lung, which contains air. That is also one of the factors we can float. So after this, don't be afraid of water, because everyone can float. How about fish? Some fish can raise or lower themselves in water using their swim bladder. This is an organ inside their body that they can fill with gas or remove the gas. When fish reduce the amount of gas in the swim bladder, their bodies become heavier and it sink. When fish fill their swim bladder with gas, their bodies become lighter and it rise to the surface of water. Next, we proceed with evaluation. Let's do some evaluation to check our understanding on this topic. A submarine has larger blank to control its position and the depth it can submerge below sea level. The answer is ballast tank. A submarine has a larger ballast tank to control its position and the depth it can submerge below sea level. Correct. Next, to ensure that a ship carries a safe load, the blank is marked on the hull to show the depths which are safe for them to navigate. What would be the answer? Plimsoll line. To ensure that the ship carries a safe load, the plimsoll line is marked on the hull to show the depths which are safe for them to navigate. An object would float or move upward when the buoyant force is blank than the weight of the object. Bigger. An object would float or move upward when the buoyant force is bigger than the weight of the object. How about when an object would sink or move downward when the buoyant force is than the weight of the object? Yes, smaller. An object would sink or move downward when the buoyant force is smaller than the weight of the object. Amazing, everyone! We already come to the conclusion. To conclude, we can communicate on the application of Archimedes' principle once we understand that the objects will float or sink depends on their density, volume, weight of water displaced by them. And by understanding this concept, we can relate the involvement of the buoyant force into the real-life applications such as ships, submarine, hot air balloon, swimming, and how fish float and sink themselves. Last but not least, feel free to scan the QR code to fill the exit ticket before you end this video. I think that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. See you on the next video. Thank you everyone. See you soon.